to maximize your Revit projects with Ideate Software. My name is Richard Taylor and I am a technical evangelist here at Ideate Software. Now, Ideate Software is primarily based in San Francisco, but we have a team in Washington State, Oregon, New Jersey, and myself in Massachusetts, so we do have a little bit of East Coast represented of our team here. We have customers in over 34 countries and we are growing around the world. So Ideate Software is basically everywhere in the world where there's Revit. Now right now, or currently, we are only delivering in English, but we do have plans to kind of expand that coverage. But I think for most of you, probably English is okay. So Annalisa already mentioned the agenda, but I'm going to talk today about our three software solutions: Ideate Explorer, Ideate BIMLink, and Ideate Sticky. Ideate Explorer is really all about project exploration and auditing, and as she mentioned, we're going to have a specific class or a webinar coming up on auditing with Ideate Explorer. So I'm just going to show you a few little tidbits today, basically. And then our Ideate BIMLink solution is allowing you to take information from the Revit model, all of that parameter information or data, and send it to Excel, make manipulations and changes in Excel where it's very easy, and Excel is a good tool for making that kind of mass manipulation and formulas and updates. And then we're able to import that information back into the Revit model and make changes to the Revit model based on that. And then our third solution today that I'm going to talk about is Ideate Sticky. And it's using Excel, but in a bit different way than Ideate BIMLink. Ideate BIMLink is all about the data, kind of pushing the data back and forth between Revit and Excel, and the changes that you make in Excel are going to be updating the Revit model, for instance, maybe the door widths or the door heights. But sometimes you have an Excel spreadsheet and you just want to display that information in your Revit project. It could be code information, it could be design data, a myriad of different options here. So Ideate Sticky is all about creating a schedule, but that schedule is sort of non-BIM data, meaning that it's not driving the Revit model. It's just displaying in a schedule format, but it allows you to link the Excel worksheet. So if there are changes and updates made to Excel, that's going to be updated in the Revit model. Very similar to linking in let's say an AutoCAD drawing into your Revit project. So with that, I know we have a lot of information to cover in a very short period of time. So the first Ideate software solution that I'm going to talk about today is Ideate Explorer. Ideate Explorer, and you see here this introductory quote, I won't belabor that, but it's all about auditing and understanding your Revit model. So think of Ideate Explorer in some ways as your Revit search engine. It allows you to quickly identify information in the model. So it's showing you all instances of the elements in the Revit project. So the project browser that I'm sure everyone's familiar with in Revit is basically like a library. You can download and you can import or load in component families, let's say, or you build views. So it's showing you things that may be available to you, but not necessarily everything are in that model. But Ideate Explorer is showing you all of the elements. So it's a model browser as opposed to a project browser. So you're going to see how I can quickly, like I said, understand, find things, and be able to reclassify those items. So a lot of our customers are using Ideate Explorer to audit their projects and just making sure that their Revit project is clean and healthy and organized correctly, right? And that's the kind of the last couple points there, maintain quality standards and ensure a quality assurance and quality control. So with that, I'm going to switch to Revit here. I'll make sure that I wait for that. It looks like that's displayed. Excellent. So right, I am using today Revit 2017. You'll see in a moment, I'm going to show you some versions. We have Ideate Explorer versions that go all the way back to Revit 2012. And of course, the Ideate Explorer version has to match the current or the release of Revit that you're using. But we find that typically most of our customers are on Revit 2015, 16, and 17, the last three releases basically. So if you are on Revit 2016 or previous versions, all of our software will be in the Add-ins tab. So you'd select under Add-ins, under the Revit ribbon, and you'd see that our solutions. But in Revit 2017, we moved it to the Ideate Software tab, so we have our own tab here. And so you see Ideate, BIMLink, Explorer, and Sticky. And you might also see there's a new suite of applications called Ideate Apps. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I just thought I'd give you a little teaser of we are developing some new applications that we're going to be releasing fairly soon. So you guys are very fortunate to be one of the first to see at least the menu bar. So again, that's I mean that I'm giving you that little tease and not giving you a lot of information about it, but that's the way I am. I'm just a mean person, I guess. So now I'm going to start up Ideate Explorer. So Ideate Explorer, as I said, is a model browser. So what we're doing here is we're looking at, by default, the active view, but maybe I want to look at the entire project. So I sort the entire project by default by category. And I want you to notice that it's showing me I have 35,978 elements in this Revit model. And so every single item or element has a number after it, which will tell me the instances that I have. So in this case, I might want to come down to, for instance, my curtain wall panels. I have 786 of those. Notice it's classified by family and type. I have operable panels, sliding panels, system panels, and again, I can expand and I can see, oh, under operable panels, I have clear glazing. I have 44 of those, and I have, of the frit glazing, 8 of those. And again, as I continue to expand, I can get down to the actual instance. And so I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see there it says the operable instance. Anytime I want to identify or go to a particular element in the model, I simply double-click, and Ideate Explorer will automatically zoom into that particular view. To select the item, I simply select the check mark, and now it's in my selection set. And you can see there it says 1 selected. Also down on the Revit menu, 1 is selected. Now instead of selecting the one item, maybe I wanted to select all of the clear glazing operable awnings. So now I move one level up, and now I have 44 selected. Now it doesn't really matter in this case, I'm showing all of the information. I don't have to be in this view, or the elements do not have to be in this view that I'm working in. So I know that I'm grabbing all 44 wherever they are within the project. Now, Ideate Explorer is what we call non-modal or modeless. Basically, that means that once I select something or highlight something, I can use any appropriate Revit command. So I can come over here to the Properties palette in Revit, and I can say, you know what, I would like to switch this to a sliding panel instead. So immediately, all 44 of the curtain wall panels have now been reclassified from the clear panel to this sliding. Now there were already 4 to begin with, so now we have 48. You see if I expand down, here are all of the ones I just moved over, and then there were 4 that were already existing that from in the model. So it's a great way for me to, again, identify something very quickly and then switch its family and type. Now, I'm showing you this based on, again, sorting by category, but we can also sort by level, phase, room, space. This is something that the project browser just can't do. I mean, the project browser is basically showing you things sort of by default, by category. So if I come over here by level, I'm now reorganized all the elements of the model based on level. Sometimes that there is an unassigned level, which you'll see quite a few elements that it's not assigned to a specific level, but most of the model elements themselves are, like first floor, bearing, level 11. And if I expand the top of footing, I see I've got levels, I've got doors, and I'm sort of thinking like, why is there a door assigned to the top of footing level? That may be incorrect. So what I'm going to do is highlight that there for me. And if I want to see this, a nice little feature that was introduced with Autodesk in 2016 was the ability to build a selection box around any item that I select. So now I can say, oh, okay, this is the door. Let's just look at that, zoom up on it, and I'm like, oh, obviously this was incorrect. It should not be at the top of footing level. This was a mistake, so let's fix that, and it should be on the first floor instead, and we'll apply that. So it allows me to then reclassify that, and now, again, the door is on the first floor level. Now, if I want to go back to the overall view of all the items, I would just come over here to the Properties palette and just say, turn off that section box in that view, and I can go ahead and fit the view, and I see all of that information again. So I've got the model for me. And by the way, you know, the Ideate Explorer dialog does take some space depending on how much you expand it, but we do have this nice little feature called auto hide that allows you to reduce it to the size of a icon, and then simply floating over it, it pops back up. But for the demonstration purposes, I tend to like to have that open because I'm kind of interacting with the Ideate Explorer window quite a bit. So you'll notice that I have Explore here. Everything I've done is, you know, when I switch over here to the, let's say, the category, all of the items are based on this Explore tab. Well, what is this Navigate tab? Navigate allows you to navigate to individual legends, schedules, sheets, or views. Now, you're probably familiar with the project browser allows you to assign a browser organization, but only to sheets and views. Right now, if you look over here what I have on the project browser, my schedules are all just sort of lumped together alphabetically. There's no way for me to really classify them. But now with Ideate Explorer, I have the ability to look at schedules. I have key schedules, material takeoff schedules, I have quantities that are organized by doors, floors, rooms, and I can go to just my room schedules and again double click and go right to that room schedule. So it's a really nice way for me to categorize and understand that information. Now if I go back to the views, I have views that are classified by being on a sheet or not on a sheet. Let's look at those views on a sheet. Like I've got some floor plans here, some enlarged toilet plans. I'm going to double click. There's my enlarged toilet plan. Well, what if I want to find out the sheet that's on as well? Well, I can right click and say open up the sheet. So Ideate Explorer gives me a great way to quickly navigate to views, sheets, schedules, as well as the actual elements themselves. So you see over here, now I'm switching back to the Explore tab. All right, speaking of going and switching to the individual elements, what I might want to do is look at the items in a little bit more detail here. So let's go back to that first floor. Oh, I guess maybe I didn't even actually activate it. Let's go first floor equipment and furniture plan. So we will open up that view. Now I'll go back to Explore. And what I'd like to do is show you that, okay, we're looking at the entire project and we've got 319 walls. If I come over here to look at just the walls in this view, which is first floor equipment and furniture plan, now I've gone down to 215. Maybe I'd like to further refine that search by using filtering and search tools. So the filter, what I'm going to do here is bring up the Revit filter. This is the standard filtering dialog that I have in Revit. And I'm going to create a rule for interior walls. So I'll call it wall interior. And we'll go ahead and we want that to work on the wall category, right? And we want to be filter where the function, so over here, function is equal to interior. So again, this should be very familiar to you. It's a standard. You can use any Revit filter you've already created. So once I create it, now I want to assign it. I want to assign that wall interior. So immediately it's gone down to look at just the 104 interior walls. If I select on that, it will highlight in that view, and I can actually zoom up and you see now in that kind of nice beautiful purple color, I've highlighted all the interior walls, right? And again, I can always clear the selection by saying that I don't want to select any of those items. But maybe I wanted to get a further refinement in my search. Not only did I want interior walls, but I wanted walls with the word reception in them. So I can now type in my search field, reception, hit the little binoculars, and now I'm down to 13 walls. And that's what I was really looking for, was the reception desk. So now I can highlight that interior reception desk, and now I've got that information in that view. So it's a great way for, again, me to really understand these items and to quickly find, search, and filter for things. So I'm going to clear that search, and I'm going to go back to filter. Now, I told you you can build any filter in Ideate Explorer that you'd like for use from Revit. We actually ship with several filters that are pre-built. So we have the annotation filter, the model filter, but then there's this other one that I want to have you pay close attention to called Ideate Audit. When you click on Audit, it's going to look at things that are, let's say in the entire project, these are particular things like CAD imports, levels, lines that can sometimes get out of hand if you're not cautious about it. Like, let's actually look at lines. We have 17,592 lines in this project, which is okay. We have model lines that are room separation lines, which are pretty good. Sometimes I'll see clients or customers have model lines that are, for instance, ceiling grids. Well, that's not very good, because the ceiling grid could plot in a or display in an elevation view, in a section view. You know, you really want to be using detail lines for that. So let's expand detail lines. And I see I've got a lot of detail lines here with all different kinds of names. So for instance, I've got, you know, these are probably from AutoCAD, maybe when I exploded it or something like that. So I've got, you know, 66 lines that are on this line style called 47, and line 48, line 49, 51, line, you know, 0. So I'm just highlighting some of these. You see down below I have 481 items selected. They can be, you know, in multiple views. Obviously, it doesn't matter where I'm at in the project. Now I'm just going to come over here and say, you know, all of those really should have been on the A detail fine line style. So now I've reclassified those. A detail fine has 1,167. So again, it's a great way for me to reclassify those items. Same or similar is if I come over here to text notes, right? And if I expand on the amount of text notes I have, I see that I've got, oh, probably when I copied from multiple projects, I had this 3/16 aerial. You see it got copied around and incremented, aerial 2, aerial 3. Well, I want to take those two, and let's just say that I want to change that just to the 3/16 aerial. So now I can consolidate those. And, you know, I'd want to maybe use the purge unused items in Revit to get rid of those, because now I don't have any instances on those particular text styles. Okay, now not only does Ideate Explorer allow you to understand things based on the, you know, the family and type, but we can actually drill down into any parameter information. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say I select on dimensions. I've got 1,321. Well, I could go look at all these dimensions that I have here. You know, I've got linear, text overrides, DG angular dimensions. But what I really want to do is find something that says, show me the text dimensions that are overridden. So I can bring up Ideate Query, and I can say, are there any in my entire project that have a value override set to them? Well, in fact, there are 1,011 that are blank. There are 309 where the value override is not applicable. But yeah, there's one. So how in the world would you find that one text dimension in your entire project that's been overridden without a tool like Ideate Explorer and Ideate Query? So now I'm going to select that, right? It brings it into my list. I'm going to double click to go to that particular view, and it brings up that, there it is. And if I click on it, and it says, yep, sure enough, the actual value was 3 foot 4 inches. It was replaced with 48-inch max, and I'm going to now use the actual value. Another great way to use this, if I switch back to the filter, I'll say no filters, and I'm going to say the entire project again. We'll clear the selection. Maybe go down to casework, and you know what? I'm going to show this. It's still usually nice to show in a nice plan view, so we'll go ahead and do that for first floor equipment and furniture plan. Select all items of casework, go again down to Ideate Query, and we'll select, hey, are there any in-place families? Again, that's a value, or a flag that's a parameter. So right now there are 122 loadable families. There are 28 in-place families under the casework category. So now it will show those to me, and I can go into a particular item like this bookshelf. And again, if I'm seeing this bookshelf a lot, right, in all these areas, that probably is not a very good use of an in-place family, because that can really bloat the file. It can increase the file size and performance, or decrease the performance, I should say. So if you have a lot of these, it's a quick way to understand where in-place families have been used, and really you might want to use a loadable family instead. Okay, so let's clear that selection here. Let's do one last thing with Ideate Explorer. We're going to look at our entire project. We're going to go to our CAD imports, and this is something that's really important. With the project browser, there's no way to see over here under the project browser CAD imports. There's just not a category. There's a Revit links, but there's not a CAD import. So now I can expand this and I can look at AutoCAD or MicroStation files that have been imported either into the view specific items or into the overall project. And as I expand on this, let's say a door detail here. Let's say door details. I've got a couple instances. You know, the first one I double click, it goes to the door detail AutoCAD insert. That's great. The second one though, I'm like, that seems kind of weird. Why do I have two instances of this? Well, when I double click, Ideate Explorer tells me, hey, that element was hidden. So a lot of times what happens is you import a CAD file, you trace over it, you say right click, hide in view, and then you forget about it. Well, how do you go back and find those things? So this is a great way. It's going to turn on reveal hidden elements in Revit, and I can see the view here, and I'm like, okay, this is a site plan view. Someone obviously, you know, imported this in by mistake. So let's go ahead and click on that. I can use Ideate Delete, which allows me then to say, do you really want to delete this CAD import? And I say, yes, I do. So it's nice. It gives me the confirmation of that. So if I had multiple items, for instance, you know, if I selected ceilings and, I don't know, detail tags or something and hit delete, you notice that it's going to tell me I've got 3 ceiling tags and 3 detail items that are going to get deleted. Do you want to delete that or not? I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to delete that. So again, let's go ahead and select none here. I'll look at the entire project, and that is again a great way for me to use Ideate Explorer. So let's switch back to my main presentation here. So we introduced Navigate. That was what I kind of highlighted there, allowing you to go to individual views, sheets, schedules, and it allows you to understand how these schedules are sort of classified much easier than you can with the out-of-the-box Revit project browser. And then our last major release, we also introduced Query. I just showed you the tip of the iceberg there, allowing you to query for information in the Revit model. But you can use it to find unused annotations. You can use it to find design options, in-place usage, which is what you saw me do as an example, but also revision information, basically any parameter data that you have, which is really nice. So Ideate Explorer, as I mentioned, most of our customers are on the last 3 releases, Revit 2015, 2016, and 2017. However, we do have versions going back to 2012. One thing that's really unique about Ideate software solutions in general is that when we introduce a new version or new feature, for instance, last October we introduced, you know, Navigate and Query. We actually sort of backdate that, so we make it available to Revit 2015. In addition to 2016 and 2017. So right now when you see these 3 releases, they are all identical in their feature set. Now as we go further back to Revit 2014 to 2013 and 2012, there are things that were not in the Revit API. That's the application programming interface that we use. So they weren't available for us, and so we couldn't have those particular features. So the further back you go, the features might vary a bit, but usually the last 3 releases are pretty much identical. So all of these are available for download on our website. Okay, our next Ideate software solution is Ideate BIMLink. So Ideate BIMLink is all about taking the data that you build up in your Revit model and being able to export that to Excel and make manipulations and changes in Excel and import that data back in, or import the data into Revit again. So I've got a very short video here that kind of explains this, and then I'll go live. So this is actually nice because it's showing Ideate BIMLink 2015. So what we ship with BIMLink about 200 or 300 different samples, and those samples are think of those as like schedule definitions in a way, or schedule templates. It's just as the same thing as you'd have schedule templates in your project. So it gives you a starting point, but at that once you have that starting point, you can add parameters or subtract parameters. I mean, you can modify any of these as you see fit. Or you can start out by just selecting the category, like in this case, lighting fixtures, where I want to create what we're calling a link definition. So you see here there's the sample link, or you can build the information directly from the schedule. Now down below you'll see that I have a schedule already shown there that has different things like type manufacturer, model, lamp quality. You know, those are the parameters that were in this particular schedule. So you see that it's very similar to a schedule in Revit, where you can sort on system parameters, project parameters, family parameters. So if you've got shared parameters, that can be part of the export that you do with Ideate BIMLink. So all that data is made available to you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export that information, or that link definition, to Excel. We're going to open up the file in Excel, and you'll notice that here we've got some, the columns, like in this case voltage, alternate manufacturer, mounting size, they match the parameters that we had over on Revit. Now I've got one already filled in, so let's say someone went through and filled out this information in Excel, and now we're going to import that information into Excel. So you see there was the voltage and the alternate manufacturer, the Lidelier, and we're now going to import that data, and you'll see it automatically fill out in the schedule. Now you may say to yourself, wow, why wasn't the lamp catalog and the diffusing media and the trim color and the mounting, why weren't those part of your pre-filled information? Well, it's because we separate basically parameters in Revit based on type and those that are based on instance. Now we can send them to the same spreadsheet, but we're giving them basically two different tabs. So we'd have a workbook that would be a tab that would be the types, and then a tab that would also be the instances. So we're very sort of logical about categorizing these things, and I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to separate these based on type and instance. Now I've got that pre-baked, that information. I'm importing the information from Excel, and now the rest of the lighting fixture schedule is automatic out. Okay, now let's go live. So here, the same file that I was in before, right? And in fact, let's get back. It doesn't really matter like what view I'm in, but I always like to be in a floor plan view here. And so now we're going to show Ideate BIMLink. And the little video I said you saw there was 2015, but here is Ideate BIMLink 2017. And this one I'm going to show how you can, there's already some links that are defined. Those are saved in the Revit project. So when you save, do a sync with Central, it's going to save that information. You can also have this as be part of your template. But I'm going to say from schedule. And I'm going to come down here, and I've already got in this project, a room schedule. So it's listing all of the schedules that are in the project. So I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to create an instance link of the room schedule, right? And it's going to give me the properties that are in that schedule. So right now, we've got things like the room number, the room name, the area of the room room type, and then we've got some base finishes here. And let's say for this actual export, I don't care about the finishes at all, so I'm going to remove those. I don't want those to be part of my export. But maybe I want the department, so I'm going to double click on department to add it. And then not only do I have, as you see here as I scroll down, all the list of available properties for rooms, but I can choose and pull information from the coordinate data, from level information, from phase information, from the actual RVT link as an example. So if I come over here to level, I might want to look at the level name as an example. And you'll see that that is, in this preview down below, it's kind of showing me what's going to get exported to Excel. Now I can also use my filter and sorting. Right now I'm sorting by the room number, smallest to largest. But I can go the other way around, largest to smallest, and you see it reclassifies down below here. But in this case, I want to keep that so that the smallest room number is on top there. All right, well, let's go back to our properties. So this is the information I want to send out to Excel. I'm going to say, done, and now export. So it asks me for a room name, or I should say room name. It asks me for an Excel name. I'm going to give it room schedule. So it just is the same name that you have the schedule as an example. And now I'm going to open up the file. So here I'm now opening and editing information in Excel. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, you notice that the room number starts off 101, 102, and then 103, then it kind of skips, and there's some gaps in my sequence here. Well, using Excel, there's some really nice things you can do. I can highlight on room 101, 102, and I can use this little green bar here, and I can say, you know what, fill down the rest of the rooms. So I go all the way down and put those in sequence. So now it just renumbered everything automatically from starting at room number 100 all the way to room 147. That's something you just can't do in a Revit schedule, be able to do those things very easily. Also, look at, I've got occupancy as the department. I'm going to do a Control-C and I can paste those items. So again, that's something you just can't do in a schedule. Now, when there's a situation like a room type or maybe a, let's say a view template that has a set list of items, we automatically build a list for you. So in this case, let's come down here to the viewing area room. And I now have this list built in of, oh, is that classified as a classroom, a hallway, an office, utility? Maybe it's utility, right? And now I can pick from that list and I know that I'm spelling it correctly and I've got the right information. Once I have multiple items here, I can say, well, you know what, I want to copy those down. And again, now copy that information. Now, you can use all kinds of really cool formulas in Excel. That's another great advantage. So if I come over here to the catering kitchen and all the rooms happen to be uppercase text. Maybe I wanted to change that to lowercase. So I'm going to come over to an area here, it doesn't matter where, to the right, and I'm going to do a formula. And I'm going to say the formula is lower, and I'm going to say that is column C2. So what it does is it takes that's a little Excel formula. It takes the catering kitchen and makes it now lowercase. Well, because I've got that little green grab bar, I can come down and say, you know what, I want to paste that formula down to all of the rooms. And now all of the rooms are lowercase. Now, if I have that data, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. But then when I paste it back, I don't want to paste the formula because then I get kind of a circular reference. I'm going to paste the value. So now when I paste the values, it's now back to, then use this formula over here to the right to change this to a lowercase catering kitchen and so forth. Now I may also want to come down here and add some information. So if I come over, let's say, to this item here, and I'm going to enter that. Oops, didn't want to paste that. And we're going to say that this is going to be maybe room 150, and we're going to say room 200. And we're going to say this is going to be called the Microsol Resources meeting area. And then we're also going to say that we want to have a prep kitchen maybe. So I can just add as much information as I want. Maybe these two things are going to be offices and they're going to be occupancy as a department. So I can come over here and again do Control-V. Now all I need to do with Ideate BIMLink is tell it there's not a Revit number here as far as an ID number. I just say new. So I'm telling Ideate BIMLink to create a new placeholder room, room number 150 for Microsol Resources meeting area and room number 200 for the prep kitchen. Now notice that some of these items are gray, meaning that I can't change them. Like for instance, area. So if I come over here and I say the catering kitchen, I would like the catering kitchen to be 5,000 square feet. Well, you know what? Excel is going to allow me to do that, but I did that so that you can see that Ideate BIMLink's not going to allow that to happen because that's a read-only property in Revit. We're basically just saying, hey, we want to look at the square footage or maybe want to do some manipulations or formulas to it, but I can't change it because if I were to say 5,000 square feet, how does Revit know, like, where the room would grow, like, whether vertically or horizontally? But anyway, I've made a lot of changes in this spreadsheet. I've renumbered the rooms, I've added a couple rooms, I've changed the room types, I've changed departments, I've changed the case to lowercase. Now I'm going to save this information. And I'm going to come back over here to Revit and I'm going to import. All right, and I'm going to import that room schedule that I just changed. So it goes through its great calculations and it says, hey, there's some things here that just so you might want to be aware of. It's telling me all the things that got changed in the upper dialog area, and in the lower dialog it's telling me some items that just, hey, you created 2 new unplaced rooms, but hey, you were unable to change this property. It was read-only. So we are very, very careful. I can't stress that enough about the Revit database. we make sure that the integrity of the Revit database is maintained so that you're not switching, for instance, if the parameter was a type-based parameter and you're trying to put a number-based parameter in it, it's just not going to allow you to do that. So anyway, I'm happy with all these changes. I'm going to import and I'm going to close, and now if I come over here, we have our multi-purpose space, right? And I'm going to say, you know what, that was, let's take that room and let's tab on that. Let's like tab, and let's delete that room. And so now what I'd really like to do is place a new room, and instead of placing it from a new room, now I've got a list of all of my rooms, my multi-purpose space. You know what, I would like this to be the Microsol Resources meeting area, and it's now room number 150. Again, remember it kept the room number, and in fact all of the information, like when I select on that room, right, and I go here, it's got, for instance, here's the name, the Microsol Resources meeting area, the department is set to occupancy. If I had other things that I wanted to, like again, the ceiling finish, floor finish, wall finish, I could easily have done those as well. So it's a great way for me to, again, update all that information. Now, I told you at the beginning of the presentation that I wanted to make sure that I got my engineers, so I'm going to open up a new project here very quickly. And this project itself is a mechanical project, and again I'm going to use Ideate BIMLink very quickly here. If I go over here to my Ideate software, here is BIMLink, and I'm going to export out and load a sample. That sample is going to come from my quality control and my device elevations. So now I'm going to look at all the device elevations very quickly in an Excel format. I'm going to say, you know what, let's go ahead and export that to my device elevations, and I can open that file, scan all of the elevations, and you see that all of them are at 1200 except for this one, and maybe there was multiple ones, maybe it's okay, but now I'm going to say, you know what, I actually want to change that to 1200 as well. I'm going to save it. If I want to look at that, I can come over here and say back to Revit. Too many windows open here, and we're going to come over to my manage, and we'll manage. I want to look and select by ID. That I want to grab that ID. So now when I show that ID, oops, yep. Let's close that and say OK. Now you see that that device is about 3/4 of the way up that door. So if I go back to Ideate BIMLink, and now I'm going to make sure that I did save that file. There's my elevation, so I'm going to say save and import my device elevations. So in this case it was only one, but can imagine if there were hundreds of these things that I wanted to change in one fell swoop, and you saw now that moved down. So now it's lower. If you don't believe me, I can say undo, and now it goes up, and again now it goes down. As far as, this is a great way for me to quickly review the information like for all these device elevations. I'm going to close that, and I'll switch back to my presentation here. So Ideate BIMLink, hopefully I gave you just a couple examples that you can certainly edit parameters that appear in schedules, but you can also rename things, families and types very easily. You can manage parameters that don't appear in schedules. I mean, we've all had that issue where the parameter is available to you, you filled it out, but you just can't seem to be able to schedule it correctly. I showed you that you can create new rooms, but you can also create new areas, schedule keys, masses, generic models, sheets, and spaces as well. And then I kind of touched upon the fact that we can have, RVT linked data, so I can use that as a reporting feature. I'm not able to change information in the link, just like you can't with Revit, but I can certainly report on that information. And then I've got information for design options and all the phase data as well. And again, I'm just touching the surface here because we're going to be presenting a further webinar on Ideate BIMLink in the future. And then hopefully I've shown you that editing with Excel allows you to quickly manipulate and change these items with ease. And just like Ideate Explorer, we have multiple versions of Ideate BIMLink that match the Revit version. So Revit 2015, 16, and 17 are probably our most used releases. So you notice that we just released a new version in April of this year, but we also released an update to our 2016 and our 2015 version as well. And again, we go back to 2014 and 13 with BIMLink, but most of our users are on these last 3 releases. All right, and a quick tour of Ideate Sticky. So Ideate BIMLink, hopefully I showed you, was all about the data, exporting the data, manipulating it, importing that data back into Revit. Sticky's all about managing the non-BIM data. So what do I mean by that? Well, I have a little video here, and I'll talk through that as well as it goes, in that here's an Excel spreadsheet. And this might be some code information as an example. It's a code list, right? So I want to make sure that that information then is just displayed in Revit in a schedule. So we're using the schedule header. I'm able to go to a view. In this case, it's a sheet view. And I want to place a sticky on that view. So place a schedule. So just as you would basically link to an AutoCAD file or link to a MicroStation file, you're going to specify the Excel file. So you go out here and we give you a sample directory. So whether it's you're using any version of Ideate Sticky, there will be a sample files and they'll have multiple samples that you can choose from. So here I'm going to give it a name. You can give it any name you'd like. I'm going to select on that I want it to be the code checklist and say OK. And we're going to say that there is the schedule. And so now we have the schedule that's displayed correctly in Revit. We'll save that, we'll close the file, and we're going to go out to Excel and make some changes. So now when I double click on Excel, I'm going to change the date, we're going to change the address here, and we're going to change some information about the sheets, let's say. So once I make those changes, now save the information, then we're going to go and open up the project again. Well, Ideate Sticky has this option to say auto update, which means auto update on project open. So now when the project opens, this little S will appear saying, hey, all the stickies are up to date. I went out and grabbed the latest and greatest, and now I made changes to the date, to the sheet numbers, and the address. So again, let's switch over to Revit here. I'm going to go to a view, and we're going to create a sheet view. And I don't want to save the project. So now we've got the sheet, right? And we'll go over here to our Ideate software. This time we'll select Ideate Sticky. And I'm going to select, I've already got one sticky there created, but we're going to create another one. And it's going to be our lighting. So now we've got, let's say I want to go to the, let's say the LUMEC. So if there are multiple workbooks or tabs, I can choose which tab I want. And for right now, I'm going to keep it under the print area, and I'm going to call this Richard's Lighting. All right, so I can give it any name I want. So you'll notice that it automatically brings in the LUMEC. It brings in images, which is really nice. That was our last release. We updated Ideate Sticky to support images within Excel. So now I want to make some changes to that, right? So we're going to come over here to my directory. I told you that that was the lighting spec, so I'm going to double click on that, and we're going to go over to the LUMEC tab. So under Philips LUMEC, I'm going to say this is Philips LUMEC for Rich. I'm very vain, I guess. And then come over here and select that I want this to be a different color. And one last thing that's also really nice is, let's say I don't care about the last one, the Urban Bollard. I only want the information for, let's say, I want the post top, right, and the Philips LUMEC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this, let's say, my region. Okay, so just to verify that, I'm going to come over and say, all right, if I go to my region, notice it highlights that particular area. So I'm going to save those changes, come back over here to Revit, and now notice that the information didn't immediately change. However, if I go to Sticky, I can update the information, but you'll notice one thing that's really cool is it shows me that the information is out of date. It reads the timestamp and it knows it's out of date. I'm going to select Auto Update, and it's going to go grab that Philips Lumac for Rich, change the color. Now it didn't change the area, it's still showing urban bollards, but I'm going to show you now I can say Update From, and now I can change the worksheet region to my region and select OK. Now it only has the post top, the urban bollard, the second one I guess, and the second post top. So it's a great way for me to quickly see or limit what I want to see from the Excel file. And then one last thing here, I'm going to create a revision schedule here. I'm going to come out to my multi-page revisions, and I'll just give it the default name here. And one of the things that we also added in our last release of Ideate Sticky is the ability to map multiple line styles. Like right now, this is all black line styles. But if I come over here to Sticky, I've got this little cog wheel that I can now map any of these styles. So if I want to map the outside border to medium lines, I really want to map it to the R line style in Revit. I'm going to update all stickies, and now we're going to manage my line styles, right? So we're going to come over here to line styles, and I'm going to show you that if I go over here and select the R line style, I guess I'm in a Richard R mode here. I'm going to select line style of 6, and I'll make it a color of green. Select OK, OK, and now you see the outer line style has that dark or the thicker line style with a dark green. So let's go ahead and fit that view. And then if you're using our applications together, if we go over to Explore, the first application I showed you, notice that if I go to Navigate, I can navigate to my individual legends schedules, and I can navigate to sticky schedules. I've now got 3, and I've got Richard's lighting, the code list, and the complete revision list. And if I double click on Richard's lighting, okay, it can open up that view for editing. So this is actually, we're using the schedule header information. If I come over here and make a change to Rich, do a double H, it's going to tell me that I have this set to update from Excel. So the information is always coming from Excel. That's our single source of truth. So you really don't want to be editing it too much within the Revit environment. You want to make those changes in Excel and have those changes automatically update with Sticky. Oh, let's go back to my presentation here. And so I've already said what a sticky is. It is a schedule header. It allows you to have direct interface with other Excel users. So people that don't even know Revit, they could be working in Excel to be doing their code lists, their general notes, their design criteria. And then you can publish that Excel data into multiple projects. Just like with Ideate Explorer and Ideate BIMLink, we have multiple versions. So our Ideate Sticky 2015, 16, and 17 are identical. However, we do support 2014, but we're not supporting images of the Excel data with Ideate Sticky 2014. So again, there's a few differences once you keep going back further than this, but you'll see that we made our last update in May of this year, where we updated all of our software releases. All of our software solutions from Ideate Software allow you to have both a standalone license or a network license. We use the same technology as Autodesk, so FlexLM. You can get up to speed very quickly. We support Revit deployment, and all of our products have in-product help as well as online help. And we produce a lot of YouTube videos and help files, and we have training classes that are available on our website. And hopefully I've stressed this, I probably said it about 10 times, we do support multiple versions of Revit all the way up to 2017, and typically we release several updates per year. And Ideate Software is really all about, we're laser focused on Revit data management needs.